Con. Oh no, we're not doing it like this. Let me see. There we go. Con, man. First and foremost, I don't say call hello Yahweh by Shema Mashiach Yahweh Shai, man. As you can see, a chief apostle of the Messiah, Yah Yedai here, right? We're gonna do another Wednesday class in the spirit of Yahweh by Shema Mashiach Yahweh Shai, man. How y'all here doing, man? Give me some ones in the chat if you're having a good week, right? I need that. Because your faithful preacher here is going through it, right? And that really kind of influenced this entire lesson, right? A lot of times when I teach, I don't just teach y'all, I teach myself as well. And this is one of these lessons, right? Because it ain't always got to be about like showing how smart you are. Ain't always got to be about crushing a doctrine. Sometimes we got to cut ourselves just like how we cut others. That's what this truth is about. That's what this lesson is going to be about today. And I pray y'all learn something, right? It is crazy how this even came about, because like all weekend I didn't know what I want to talk about. Didn't know what I want to talk about. Then all hell started raining down in my life, man. And it just be like that, man. When you level up, so do your demons. The same thing I told my the officers of my camp, right? Now that they've been risen up to a higher stature, now here comes the demons. And if you can survive these demons, you're doing something in this truth. If you can survive the demons that arise in yourself, you're doing something in this truth. If you could survive the demons that just appear in your household, the demons that appear at your job, the demons that just randomly appear when you're just trying to exist in the world, you're doing something in this truth, man. And that's what this lesson's about, right? Because sometimes we get discouraged. Sometimes we deal with a lot of things, especially as men, that we don't have outlets to try to, like, we don't have outlets to talk to, right? The people to like just relinquish all of our doubts and insecurities and actually be vulnerable with. And what ends up happening is it builds up more and more anxiety to where you start messing up in your everyday life, which causes you to be hasty, like you see in Sirach 2, which we're going to go into a little bit later. But yeah, let's go into a little bit of things, right? I want to build a little bit of continuity when I do these Wednesday classes. I want to add a Saturday one too, but we'll get there when we get there, right? But yeah, I want to build a little continuity with these classes, because I want to tell y'all little things that I've been actually studying outside of like doing my lessons, outside of editing, outside of camp related stuff. Because any of y'all, if y'all ever ask my wife, I never have an off day. You can tell by my face. You can tell, especially when you go look at that video about what's that last two classes I did. I think none of them are righteous. Go look at my face from the beginning to the end of that. That shows I don't have any type of off days whatsoever. But I was gonna say, what I've been studying here recently is the papacy, because y'all saw the recent pope just died, like I guess a week ago or a little bit less than a week ago. I've been studying how the papacy came about, popes, the councils, and things like that. And I'm gonna tell y'all this right now: for a Christian to open up their mouth about the early church fathers, to open up their mouth about like how we believe in different things, go take a look at how Christianity started. Because after Paul and after Peter died and the rest of the 12, these guys just did whatever they wanted to do. The Pope became infallible. He can't be wrong in doctrine, but now the same now yeah, another devil bites the dust. Yes, exactly. Another devil bites the dust. But they got the Pope. The Pope is infallible and he can't be wrong, but he taught against doctrine that they actually established. They just did whatever they wanted. So for them to say anything about Hebrew Israelites is really hypocritical. But that's what I've been reading about. Just a lot of things about that, like the early church fathers, and a little bit of things about how Christianity started. Right next is most likely the manuscripts a little bit more. But that's what I've been studying on. So what's another thing? Right? Yeah. How did I forget? Don't forget to like, the video, man. If you love God, right? Share the video if you love God and you love your brothers, right? And if it be on your heart, Cash App, the Masada DTX on Cash App. I got it down there on the ticker. And if you want to contact us, if you're trying to join Masada, you in the Texas region, right? The Masada School at gmail.com is our point of contact, right? I'm looking to have I think like either a text now or another number for a phone for us where you can reach us. Oh, if you want to set up a debate, you got smoke, anything, right? That's our point of contact right now. There's more in the future. I got a link tree in the what is it? Description box. I don't know how I forgot that, right? And super chat if it be on your heart. But yeah, that's what I've been going into. Oh, also today, right? One more thing before we even go into this. Also today, I placed an order for a new shirt with our new signet. Let me show y'all this real quick. Right. I'm gonna let y'all know what's going on in my life. Let me show y'all this real quick. Let me present, share screen. Check this out. Boom. Right. Just placed a new order for the new shirt with the new signet on it. I love this signet. I love everything about this signet. I want to do a video. I want to do a video dedicated just for this signet, and I'll get there when I get there. But this, I absolutely love this signet right here. And we got the color wave too. Hold up. The color rush for it right here. You know, the seafoam blue / green, right? The fit is going to be the fit will be exquisite, right? that's what's going to happen with this. So yeah, I didn't place an order for this one, but I did for the base colors, right? But yeah, that's what I got going on. I got a lot of stuff, man. Lots of moving parts behind the scenes that is keeping me up at night, right? But yeah, that's what I got going on. But let's go into this. Let's go into this real quick. Let me see. Stop screen. What's going on? Share screen. Boom. There we go. I don't know what was going on with that. All right. But yeah, today we're going to be going into just not moving fast, right? Sometimes we got to do like my manager says in my job. You got to take two, right? Just take 2 minutes. Whoa. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But you know, that's you know, I got to be modest, right? Got to be humble. But yeah, I was gonna say, yeah. Sometimes you got to do what my manager says. We got to take two. When we see trouble coming, when we see bad events on the horizon, or even when you're in that pre-broke stage, like, everybody knows that. You know, you have money in your bank account, but you know you really don't, right? You're pre-broke. You know the bills are about to come. You know the tribulation is about to come. You know all these things is about to come, right? We can't be moving too fast, and we can't be so, like how Sirach 2 says, hasty. And I'm gonna go into what that means, because people always just say that and not really explain it, really. But we can't be moving too fast. We have to allow the Lord to fight our battles for us. That's the whole purpose of being in this, right? We believe in a higher power. We believe in Yahweh. We believe in His Son Yahweh Shai. We believe in the power that they have, that they empower us with through our decision making, through our works, and through our just belief system and aura, just in general. And we have to weaponize that. And I'm not just teaching y'all, I'm teaching myself as well. We have to operate in that spirit. And what's crazy about it, understanding that is really understanding the way we got established as a nation. Because the name Yahweh, the way it got spread abroad is through the Lord destroying Egypt. And when you see that, let me get this real quick. I'm also in the ESV because I've been reading that. I'm pretty much like, I deal with the KJV, but you know, I'm doing other things now, right? When we see the Lord deliver us out of Egypt, just look and pay attention to what He says. It says, Exodus 14-13, and Moses said to the people, "Fear not, stand firm, and see the salvation of the Lord, which He will work for you today. For the Egyptians whom ye see today, ye shall never see them again. Why? Because the Lord's going to destroy them. We already know what's going to happen here. But watch this. Pay attention. Verse 14, the Lord will fight for you. You have only to be silent. That's what we have to do. Not just in this instance where we were leaving Egypt and going to our land, basically going to the wilderness to go to our promised land, right? Not just in this instance, but in every instance of our life. When we see trouble arrive, when we see bad situations that we're in, even ones you put yourself in, right? You got to just take a second, right? And reassess and realize that the God that we believe in controls reality. His name is Yahweh. It means the existing one or existence. He is existence, right? He controls that. And not only does he control it, he's the God of that. He's the ruler or Elohim of that. And you see that in the main verse I want to go to in this lesson. Psalms 46 and 10, right? I love this verse. I always heard in church and never gave a damn about it till I came into the truth. So Psalms 46 and 10, it says, be still and know that I am God. That's what we have to do. We have to be still. And this doesn't mean this. What this really means is the same thing Sirach chapter 2 is talking about not moving hasty. We have to realize in our mind that the God that we believe in, when we see trouble arise, that this same God is ruler over existence around us, and he can turn it however he wants, in our favor or outside of our favor. And us doing what we're supposed to do according to his word and according to his will, he will turn it for our favor. And that's being said in this, because watch this. I'm gonna read it again. I'm gonna keep going. It says, be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. Because in the eschaton, matter of fact, even now, right? There's never been a book. There's never been a book or a literature or a God that's been so influential in the world besides the Bible, Christ, who y'all call Jesus, real name Yahweh Shai, and Yahweh, who people call the Lord. There's never been a more influential entity that's ever existed. You can't show one. It does not exist. There's never been one more influential than this power, than this God. And even in the eschaton, after the Lord puts down these nations and comes with the Son of Man, which is Yahweh Shai, like you see in Daniel chapter 7, he's going to be exalted again. And everybody shall know that we are the children of God and that he is the only ruling and true power. There will be no more doubts anymore. That's what's going to happen in the future. And he literally called this shot when you read throughout all the prophecies in Isaiah and Jeremiah and Ezekiel. Call this shot, and he's going to confirm his words when he does it. So you knowing that and being a practicing Israelite, you should be like, okay, okay, if this guy's going to call a shot, I believe it's true. He could do whatever he wants. He rules existence in and around me. So if I do what I'm supposed to be doing, like how it says in verse 11, the Lord of hosts is with us. If I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, being a practicing Israelite, wearing fringes, keeping the law, various things, holding on to what his son told us to do, he can turn it in my favor. You need not worry, because the only choices that you make out of fear and out of anxiety and out of just trepidation, all the choices you make out of those, they're never good. How many times have we said in our life, if I could just do that over, I wouldn't even have done this? How many times? I'll give you a perfect, no, not matter of fact, I'm not going to say that on camera because I have to reveal too much information. Right. But there's so many times where you could have chosen to just, if I'd have just waited just a little bit longer and just thought about this, or let the spirit move in a way to put myself in the right mentality, I could have made a better decision. I can think about so many times in my life where I should have done that. And that's operating this way. This is how you really show how your faith is perfected. but we're gonna get there. So it says, the Lord is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress, or our Masada, right? Our fortress, Salah. So what does it mean by the Lord of hosts is with us? We see examples of that in the Bible in where did I write this down? Second Chronicles. Yeah, Second Chronicles. Chronicles 15. Yeah. So Second Chronicles 15:2. And I'm just gonna start at 1. The Spirit of God came upon Azariah, the son of Oded, and he went out to meet Asa and said to him, "Hear me, Asa, and all Judah and Benjamin. The Lord is with you while you are with him. If you seek him, he will be found of you. But if you forsake him, he will forsake you." That's the type of God we serve. You have to be with him. You have to keep the commandments. You have to have the faith, and all those things show your allegiance to him. And you do that because you believe he exists. So in that same spirit, right? The same spirit of that Azariah, same spirit that Azariah was in right here. He said the Lord is with you as long as you're with him. If you're doing that, you can weaponize your faith against any trouble that you're in. He's your fortress. He's your protector. We can use this type of foresight we can get through the Spirit to help us in certain situations. And that requires you to take 2 minutes to be like, okay, let me reassess, or sometimes even longer before you make your decisions. Let the Spirit guide you instead of acting out of your emotions, instead of acting scary, right? Or acting in trepidation. That's what this lesson's about. So when you do that, let's go back to this. When you do that, you're really fulfilling what Psalms 46:10 is talking about. Be still and know that I am God. You're literally sitting here activating and weaponizing your faith when you don't act out of fear or act out of anxiety. And when you show when you end up doing that, when you act out of fear and act out of, so we lost our dominion because we forsook. Exactly, yeah. When you act out of fear and act out of anxiety, your decision making is severely impaired. And what that really shows you is your faith hasn't been matured. There's no way you can say your faith is matured when you do that. You have what we call, we've been calling in our old camp, even now, a faith issue. When you act out of your fear, act out of your anxiety. So let me show you something. So James 2, because we always use this verse differently, right? When we talk about faith and works. Which one did I write down? Just about by faith alone. There's something out there. 2:22. I want to show you. I want to read this. I'm gonna read in the King James. I'm gonna read several one of these. So in the King James, James 2:22, it says, "See thou faith wrought with his works, and by works was faith made perfect." So the way you act, because we see works right here, we see a lot of times in the Greek, it just means your deeds, like your behavior. That's what works are. It's not, works don't just, when Hebrew Israelites see works, they think it just means law. No, it's not just law, it's your deeds. The things that you do, the way you act, your behavior. So the way you behave shows what your faith is, shows what it looks like. And you operating in the spirit of stillness, like you see in Psalms chapter 46 and Psalms 46 and 10 through 11, when you operate like that and let your deeds be like that and your behavior be like that, you show your work, you show your faith to be perfected. That's full spiritual maturity. You even see in, what is that, the Amplified version, you see that his faith was working together with his works. As a result, his faith was completed, reaching its maturity when it is expressed when he expressed his faith through obedience, right? Obedience to what? The Lord's word. The Lord put the Spirit upon David to write what he wrote in Psalms 46 and 10 through 11. We can use this example to be more obedient unto the Father. That's how we show our faith to be perfected. Not being moved, not so easily moved, and not so easily like not so easily taken off your poise. Right? Anybody who plays the Elden Ring knows what that means, right? You know, like not so easily moved. So let me go back to this. 46, Psalms 46 and 10. So it says, Psalms 46 and 10, it says, be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I'll be exalted in the earth. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. Right? So like I said before, the Lord God is our fortress. A fortress is a defense. A fortress is a defense against the war. A fortress is a defense against intruders. A fortress is a defense against all things. That's how the Lord is to us. So if you have the Lord behind you, there's no reason why you should be so soon shaken. There's no reason why you should so soon be scared. There's no reason why your anxiety should build to levels that's that's crazy, right? There's no reason. And you see the way the Lord is our fortress throughout the whole context of the chapter. So let's go to verse 1. It says, to the choir master of the sons of Korah, according to Alamoth, a song, God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Right? Like I said earlier, he's there. Like he's a very, very, very present help in trouble. You can activate that if you move in faith. Chris, because Hebrew Israelites, we have to deal with Christians saying stupid things like y'all don't emphasize faith. But what's funny is these be the same people who be moved from troubles, and a lot of Hebrew Israelites as well. So it's crazy that they say that, but they could never really ever even go into something like this. They can't go into anything about it, really, to be honest. But what I'm trying to say is this: he's a very present. I'm gonna go back to the point. He's a very present help in the time of trouble. He's there with you. You have to activate this through your faith. He will guide your steps and tell you through the Spirit the right way to go, if you allow him to do so, instead of operating in your fear. So verse 2, therefore we will not fear, though the earth gives way, though the mountains be moved into the heart of the sea, though the waters roar and foam, though the mountains tremble at its swelling. Salah, right? So this is creation. Even when it feels like all creation is against you, the Lord is with you. He's a very present help in the time of trouble. Right? And I'm telling y'all this because look, I have to teach myself this when I go through the things I go through, rather. Because one thing I remember, I forgot who said it in my previous camp, right? We're all Hebrew Israelites until it's time to have to deal with what the scriptures say, to where it's time to apply the Bible. Because everybody could be on the street and say, you got to keep the commandments, you got to keep the law, you got to have faith, you got to do all these things. But when you get put in a position to where you have to now live these things, you have to now experience these things, we can't keep the Bible far from us. We have to lean on things like this. Like this whole lesson I had to go through, I wrote down, I had to teach myself these things. I had to let go of things that I was worried about or anxious about to even make this. Right? I had to teach myself all these things before I could teach all this. And that's me applying the Bible. And that's something I want everybody who ever listens to me to do, is to apply the Bible all their situations, because this is the thing. This is our wisdom and our understanding. This is our surety in this time of trouble. So I'm gonna finish this out. Actually, it says, "There's a river whose streams make glad the city of God, a holy habitation of the Most High. God is in the midst of her; she shall not be moved. God will help her when morning dawns. The nations rage, the kingdoms trotter. He utters his voice; the earth melts. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress," or our Messiah. Right? That's how we needs to be. That's what needs to be. That's how we need to be, rather. And I believe this. I believe all of this. And it took me. It took me. And matter of fact, no, I'm gonna say this too, right? I'm like, I didn't get to think about what type of lesson I wanted to do. I usually have a lesson usually by Thursday or Friday. I got a lesson. Couldn't think of nothing. Got writer's block, and then just all hell just came just crashing down upon me. I was like, okay, this is what we're gonna talk about. This is what's on my spirit. This is what we're gonna do. All right. So this is where this lesson stems from. So let's go to Sirach. Let's go to Sirach. You know we was going to Sirach today. So Sirach 2:1. It says, "My son, if thou come to serve the Lord, prepare thy soul for temptation." Right? You know, how many Hebrew Israelites have heard that verse before? Right? Prepare your soul for temptation. But the thing is, because we get this, the version of the Apocrypha we get, which this is like Sirach, like put the book of Ecclesiasticus, we have it in Greek. There's certain Aramaic ones and Hebrew ones that are very hard to find if you ever even find it. But the one that we have is written in Greek. And I want to deal with the word temptation in Greek, because we always think it just means, oh, you're going to get tempted to do something. That word isn't just applied that way, especially when you look in the Greek. So let's go to this. Let's look at this real fast. Let's look at the word for temptation. Pyrosmus. G3986. Pyrosmus. So you see right here, the first one, because when you look at this outline of biblical usage, like I said before in previous slides, these aren't definitions to this word. This is the way this. All right. This is the way this word is used. So we see right here, the very first one is the way Hebrew Israelites always tend to use it, even Christians, right? It says, "An experiment, an attempt, a trial proving the trial made of you by my bodily condition, since conditions served as to test the love of the Galatians toward Paul," right? That's going into Galatians 4:14, right? But the next one, the trial of man's fidelity, integrity, truth, virtue, and consistency, an enticement to sin, temptation, whether arising from the desires or from the outward circumstances, an eternal temptation to sin. So that's the way people always use it. Like, you were going to get tempted, you can prepare your heart to be tempted to sin, right? That's the first way. And I want to get a precept or a passage rather that's going into this. Just elaborate on what I was talking about right here with this usage. So 1 John 3:7. Let's just read down. Going into this version of the temptation. So 1 John 3:7, it says, "Little children, let no man deceive you. He that doeth righteousness is righteous, even as he is righteous." Talking about Yahushua. So if you do righteousness just like how he did, you can be righteous as well. "He that committeth sin is of the devil, for the devil sinneth from the beginning. For this purpose the Son of God was manifested, that he might destroy the works of the devil." The works of the devil is sin. Christ died to where you can now not be a sinner anymore. You're not bound to your flesh, you're bound to the spirit. So verse 9, whosoever is born of God or born again doth not commit sin, for his seed remaineth in him, and he cannot sin because he is born of God. In this the children of God are manifest, and the children of the devil. Whosoever doth not righteousness is not of God, neither he that loveth his brother. So this right here is that part of that is part of that first part of the temptation, or the trial or proving, to show if you're either going to be righteous, or are you going to be a sinner or a children of the devil or guilty? Because we see it in the book of Revelations, the people who overcome the world are going to be given the white stone. We see that Christians bring that out, a white stone with a new name in it, but they just think you're going to get another name. That has a meaning as far as Greco-Roman culture. In Greco-Roman culture, when you went to a court case or a trial, if you were found not guilty, you're given this white stone. That's what the white stone means, not guilty, innocent. That's when you see the children of God being manifested, the people who actually do the righteousness which the Son did and which the Father prescribed. That's this first temptation. If you commit sin or commit transgression, you get that black stone, you get death, you get found guilty. That's what this is. That's the main form of temptation the Hebrew Israelites always want to talk about, and people in general want to talk about. So let's talk about the second one. So Parasmus, let's see, the second one right here in the third, it says of the condition of things or a mental state. That's the other one. This is where anxiety comes in. This is where we see in Psalms 46 and 10:11 comes in. That mental state being challenged. This is where you're in. This is where you see anxiety. This is where you see fear. This is where you see trepidation. When you see trouble down there, just like how Saul saw trouble coming, and he did what? He acted out of his fear and his emotions, and he was rejected. This is that second part of that temptation that people don't want to bring up, or people don't ever talk about or ever mention. It's not just physical transgressions. It's you mentally being captive to your fear. You have to prepare yourself for that when you come to serve the Lord, because part of your belief system is conquering that thing. That's something that we have to do. That's something that matter of fact, if you don't do that, it's impossible for you to truly please him. Number one, your faith isn't completed. It's not perfected. And it's like how the book of Hebrews says, without faith, it's impossible to please the Lord. But and we know that through the way he acts and through the word that he says, just like in the book of Habakkuk, chapter 2, the just shall live by his faith. Just means shown to be right or correct, the correct way. The person who's walking the correct way is the people walking in their faith. So when you're captive to your anxiety, when you're captive to your trepidation, your fears, and you're moving out of that and moving out of emotions, right? You're not walking in a way that's justified. You have a faith issue, and you have to pray that that's removed from you, or we have to work and pray that that's removed from you, because that shows a lack of maturity in your faith. That shows you a lack of maturity in the spirit. That's something you have to prepare for when you come to serve the Lord, because you have to fight that. So looking at the last one right here, adversity, affliction, trouble, sent by God and serving to test or prove one's character, faith, and holiness. Right now, watch this. That's what brings on that fear. That's what brings on that anxiety. The way the Lord sets up and moves and stuff, like a 4D chess, to where now you have to sit back and make a decision that's a detrimental one if you mess it up, which is a catastrophic one if you sit there and make the wrong one. And 9 times out of 10, when you make that choice or make that decision out of fear and out of anxiety, it's most of the time the wrong one. And if you had just a little bit more time, or sat down, or just waited, or not just moved in a spirit of fear, you would have made the better decision. How many times in our life have we been? How many times in our life have we been in the mind state of just sitting down thinking, like, if I could go back in time and just wait a little bit and think about this, or if I could go back in time and do this way, or if I could just do this, right? This would have went this way. Because the Lord already prepared a way for escape, just like how Paul says. And when you fail that test right there, that's a test. That's a test of your character. That you failed in the time of adversity. Yeah, you kept. Yeah, you got fringes on. You keeping the law. You keeping the Sabbath days. But you failed the test. You failed the test of belief that Yahweh is God. He is the power. He's the ruler of existence around you. That's what you've done. And this thing called adversity and afflictions and troubles, the third thing that this word temptation is going into, those will come. And ever since I've been in the truth for these 9 years, that's the only thing I've seen. That is the only thing I've seen, bro. It reminds me of when I was first learning how to trade. Boy, look, yes. I did a little time with crypto and stocks. There's a lot of things I wish I can go back and do, right? Especially them rug pulls. Anybody who deals with crypto, you know what a rug pull is. Like, you put money in this thing, it looks like a good bet, and out of nowhere, all of it just sinks immediately. You lose all your money. That's a rug pull. But these temptations, we got to conquer these things, man. And whether it be a small thing, whether it be a big thing, whether it be something that seems like it's less consequential, we have to get the victory over these things. And that all of that comes through our faith. So I want to get this right. Let's go back to Sirach. Let's go back to Sirach. Sirach 2. I'm gonna read 1 and 2. This is, my son, if thou come to serve the Lord, prepare thy soul for temptation, set thy heart aright. You see what I mean? Oh shoot, I didn't know that. I didn't know it did that. Set thy heart aright. Oh, I can't even highlight on this. That's wild. But like I said before, about one of the second part to the word temptation, pyrosmus, right? Temptations in Greek. Anxiety, fear. You have to set your heart aright. You have to have a change in your mind, because your heart's similar to your mind biblically. You have to set your heart aright, constantly endure, and not make haste in the time of trouble. The time of trouble is when you see something about to happen, right? Something is consequential, and you have to make a choice. You have to change your mind state. You have to be above fear. You have to be above anxiety. You have to change your mind, because if you don't do that, you will make a decision out of haste, out of emotion. And we see Bible verses that correlate to that. So let's get, I'm going to read this in the BBE too. Proverbs 4 and 26. Let's get that in the BBE. Bibles, BBE. Yeah. Proverbs 4 and 26 in the BBE, it says, keep a watch on your behavior. Let all your ways be rightly ordered. You see that? What does it mean to be rightly ordered? I know, in the spirit, being still and knowing that Yahweh is God, or Elohim, with the power. You have to have a watch on your behavior. That's something you have to control. That's what it means by setting your heart aright. The book of Sirach says, it talks about don't do anything without counsel. For us, it can be counsel with people, counsel with your elder, counsel with God and his scriptures. That way all your ways can be rightly ordered, and you don't end up leaning upon your understanding. Because we like to use that. Let's get that actually. We like to use Proverbs 3 and 5 about leaning on your own understanding is like, somebody giving a bad breakdown, they're giving a breakdown off of their understanding, but it's more to it than that. And that's what happens when you understand things like that when you read a little bit down, right? Watch this. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart and lean not unto thine own understanding. Watch this. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. All that is going into not moving in haste. Allow him to direct your paths. How about you pray? You know what I mean? How about you take a second, right, before you make a catastrophic decision, or while you're in a position to where all hell's about to break loose in your life? How about you stop and pray? How about you seek counsel with the Father? How about you, instead of leaning on what you think you should do, you ask the Lord to put the Spirit upon you to know what you should do, and let him direct your paths. That's what we need to do. And not doing that shows a lack of maturity in your faith. So watch this. One thing that's crazy about teaching on things like this is we see pure, clear-cut examples of why it's bad to just move in fear. Like what happened with Saul. I don't know why a lot of Hebrews don't talk about this that much either. What happened with Saul is just somebody moving in fear and made a catastrophic decision, and a catastrophic judgment was put upon this man. So let's read this. So Saul, 1 Samuel 13. It says, Saul lived for 1 year and then became king. And when he had reigned for 2 years over Israel, Saul chose 3,000 men of Israel. 2,000 were with Saul in Michmash and the hill country of Bethel, and 1,000 were with Jonathan and Gibeah. Wow, I can't believe I said that like that. Gibeah of Benjamin. The rest of the people he sent home, every man to his tent. Jonathan defeated the garrison of the Philistines that was at Geba, and the Philistines heard of it. And Saul blew the trumpet throughout all the land, saying, Let the Hebrews hear. And all Israel heard it and said that Saul had defeated the garrison of the Philistines. And also that Israel had become a stench to the Philistines. Like they didn't like that. Yeah, they destroyed their garrison. So now we have a problem with you. And I'm saying that from the point of view of the Philistines. They destroyed our garrison. So now I have a problem with the Israelites. That's what's happening right here. So and also that Israel had become a stench to the Philistines, and the people were called out to join Saul at Gilgal. And the Philistines mustered to fight with Israel 30,000 chariots and 6,000 horsemen, and troops like the sand on the seashore in multitude. They came up and encamped in Michmash to the east of Bethaven. When the men of Israel saw that they were in trouble, they were in temptation, saw they were in trouble, for the people were hard pressed. The people hid themselves in caves and in holes and in rocks and in tombs and in cisterns. And some Hebrews crossed the fords of the Jordan to the land of Gad and Gilead. Saul also still at Gilgal, and all the people followed him trembling. So now we're going to get to the main part. I like to read in context. So that just set up everything. Israel destroyed the garrison of the Philistines. They got pissed off about it. Now they have a problem. They're gonna go to war with the Israelites. And a lot of Israel was scared. And at this point, Saul becomes scared. Why? Because fear. I haven't said this yet in this lesson too. Fear is contagious. That's why it's important for you to get that out of you. Right? Fear is contagious. Just like let's do a analogy for black people. Like, let's say you're at a party and out of nowhere you see people running. You know what most of us will do when I'm talking to black people, when you see people running, I'm not about to ask questions. I'm about to start running too. You know why that is? Because a nigga brought a gun. See, back when I used to live in Waco, back when I used to live in Temple, man, there were so many times, where this analogy was exactly what happened, right? It's contagious towards us. When we see something like that, you got to have your eyes open, right? But in that same vein, Shalom, Miss Veronica. In that same vein, fear is contagious. When you have people fearful around you, then you become fearful, or you're subject to fear, and that's something that you can now take on as an attribute of yourself by having people like that around you. That's why that's something you need to check. So, verse 8, it says, "He waited 7 days, the time appointed by Samuel, but Samuel did not come to Gilgal, and the people were scattering from him. So Saul said, 'Bring the burnt offering here to me, and the peace offerings,' and he offered the burnt offering." Now, Saul, what were you thinking here? What was your thought process? The crazy thing about this is y'all have to really pay attention to the multi-layered mess up. I'm trying not to say a lot of cuss words. The multi-layered mess up Saul did right here. Saul is a king. Saul is Benjamite. Benjamites are not allowed by God to give these sacrifices. Levites, and the king too. The Levites are the people who are prescribed to give the sacrifices. You being a non-Levitical priest, you bring your sacrifice to the Levites and they offer it. So now what ended up happening, through his fear, this man transgressed the commandment. And what's crazy about that, let's get some precepts real quick. Let's go to the law. Deuteronomy 17, where it talks about the laws about the king. So Deuteronomy king. Okay, I'm gonna read this just for context. Deuteronomy 17 and 14. When you come to the land that the Lord your God is giving you, and you possess it and dwell in it, and then say, "I will set a king over me like all the nations that are around me," you may indeed set a king over you, whom the Lord or Yahweh your God will choose. One from among your brothers you shall set as king over you. You may not put a foreigner over you who is not your brother. So now, context right here is rules about how you should have a king, and the rules he has to be a part of, and the rules that we have to abide by, prescribed by the Lord. So I'm gonna jump down to verse 18. This is the point I wanted to get. It says, "And when he sits on the throne of his kingdom, he shall write for himself in a book a copy of this law, approved by the Levitical priest. And it shall be with him, and he shall read it in all the days of his life, that he may learn to fear the Lord his God by keeping all the words of this law and these statutes, and do them." Now look at this, because that's all I need right now. Right now, check this out. As a king, you have a copy of the law. That's not all Israelites had that. I mean, you had the priests; they were in charge of the scrolls and Torah scrolls. Not every Israelite was running around with that, but the king had this. And inside of the Torah, the Lord prescribed the Levites to be the ones to offer sacrifices. And through your fear of a nation that's always been damn near subject to you, they've been a bane to your existence, but y'all been at war with them, the Philistines, but have conquered them multiple times. Through your fear of that of that time of trouble and people scattering from you, you transgressed the commandment, even though it was so close to you, through your fear. That's what Saul did. That's why I said this is such a multi-layered mess up. Not only did you transgress God, not only did you transgress God, you decided to offer a sacrifice. Imagine what that even looked like too. We see Benjamites. Just imagine, you know, like think about Matati, right? Think about Matati just offering a sacrifice outside of the outside of the Levites, bro. Imagine what that would look like. Imagine what my sacrifice would look like. I'm not doing none of that. I'm not doing none of that. That's crazy. That's not gonna look proper. They have their office. We have our office. Look at Razan. They have their office, and they have their office, which is the priesthood, and we have our office being the king's tribes. And when you decide to do this, when you decide to move in your fear and decide, he said, yeah, that's what. When you decide to move in your fear and move in trepidation and anxiety about what's about to happen to you, it causes you to sin. It causes you to make bad decisions, just like how Saul did, even though he had a copy of the law. I'm gonna read 19 again. And it shall be with him, and he shall read it in all the days of his life, that he may learn to fear the Lord his God by keeping all the words of this law and these statutes and doing them. Bro, you had the law. Not all Israelites had it, but you had it. But in your fear and you being scared, you being scary, right? It caused you to be rejected. It caused so much problems for us as a nation. So look at this, right? Let's just get that law, though. Numbers 18. Numbers 18, I think it's 6 or 7. It says, Numbers 18 and 6, it says, and behold, I have taken your brothers, the Levites, from among the people of Israel. They are a gift to you, given to the Lord to do the service of the tent of meeting, right? This is where we go give our sacrifices. Give our sacrifices at. But the Lord chose the Levites to be the ones to do this service, not you, not a Judite, not a Benjamite, not who else? Naphtali, Zebulun, not any of them, the Levites. Verse 7, it says, and you and your sons with you shall guard your priesthood for all that concerns the altar and that is within the veil, and you shall serve. I give your priesthood as a gift, and any outsider who comes near shall be put to death. That's what the Lord prescribed in his law, and that was inside the copy that Saul had, according to our law in Deuteronomy 17. And yet still, you got scary and caused yourself to be rejected, that caused so much war inside of Israel, so many people dying, the house of Saul against the house of David. They did so many problems of Israel spawned from this very point in 1 Samuel, because that man got scary. That's why it's important for you not to move in fear. Watch this. Here's another one. 2 Chronicles, what did I write down? 2 Chronicles 26, 16. $18. 2 Chronicles 26 and 18. And they withstood King Uzziah and said to him, it is not for you, Uzziah, to burn incense to the Lord, but for the priest, the sons of Aaron, who are consecrated to burn incense. Go out of the sanctuary, for you have done wrong, and it will bring you no honor from the Lord God. Right? So we see another king trying to be foolish. Right? The Levitical priests have their order. They have their position. Let them run that. You have no business trying to do that. So when his dumb ass tried to give us a sacrifice, like it for the children, my bad, right? But it's just so crazy how you just thought that was okay. But when you try to do that, by giving a sacrifice, not being a Levite, by offer a sacrifice, not being a Levite, it brings you no honor. And it caused him to be rejected, which caused massive civil wars inside of the land of Israel. So let's go back to the point. Right. So let's start at 8. 1 Samuel 13:8. He waited 7 days, the time appointed by Samuel, but Samuel did not come to Gilgal, and the people were scattered from him. So Saul said, "Bring the burnt offering here to me, and the peace offerings." And he offered the burnt offering. As soon as he had finished offering the burnt offering, behold, Samuel came, and Samuel went out to meet and greet him. And Samuel said, "What have you done?" Look at that, bro. Why did you think this is okay? Why would you think you could do this? Why would you think you could do this, Saul? Y'all have never done. Like, the thing is, he grew up an Israelite. It wasn't no like how we grew up. Like, I had to go through 20-something years and now find I'm an Israelite, and we have to do our best to catch up with the knowledge. He grew up knowing this, and in his fear decided to transgress the commandment. That's why he said, "What have you done?" So Samuel said, "What have you done, O Saul?" And Saul said, "When I saw that the people were scattering from me, and that you did not come within the days appointed, and that the Philistines had mustered at Michmash, I said, now the Philistines will come down against me at Gilgal, and I have not sought the favor of the Lord. So I forced myself and offered the burnt offering." And Samuel said to Saul, "You have done foolishly." You see that? This is what I was talking about. When you move out of emotion, out of fear, out of anxiety, out of trepidation, this is what happens. You look foolish. The Lord allows that to be your consolation. Oh, that's what you want to do? You don't want to think about me? You don't want to move after what I want you to do? Okay, that's fine. Let's see how your way goes. It's kind of like when you give your wife advice and she doesn't want to listen to it, so you just try it her way and it backfires. That's how a lot of Israelites are. Sometimes matter of fact, I had that happen to me at work the other day. Like, not this, but there was this dude. Shoot, I forgot his name. And he was driving a forklift. And then I said, "Bro, you need to watch this area because there's a lot of stuff over here. You want to be a little bit more careful." He said, "How old are you?" I said, "Bro, I'm 30. I'm 30 years old." And he said, "I've been driving forklifts for longer than you've been alive." I said, "All right." I said, sometimes you gotta let a nigga just mess something up. Right? You gotta just let it happen. And lo and behold, he hit something. I tried to tell you. And that's how the Lord is with us. I tried to tell you, but you wanted to do it your way because you were proud, and this is what you do. So now you have to deal with the consequences. And that's what this lesson's about. I'm trying to save you from creating another moment in your life that you wish you could rewind and then choose another choice. Because the Lord makes a way for you to be saved out of your situations as long as you're with him. You don't want to be told that you've done foolishly like that old nigga. The Bible says sometimes old men are not always wise, right? It just be like that. So let's get back to the passage. 1 Samuel 13:13. And Samuel said to Saul, "You have done foolishly. Ye have not kept the command of the Lord your God, which he commanded you. For when the Lord would have established your kingdom over Israel forever, but now your kingdom shall not continue. The Lord has sought out a man after his own heart, and the Lord has commanded him to be prince over his people, because you have not kept what the Lord commanded you." So that's what this lesson is about. Keeping what the Lord commanded you and moving after his way and being still and knowing that he is God, right? Not doubting. Let's get another one. Matthew, good old book of Matthew. Matthew 13. Oh, it's Matthew 14. Matthew 14:22. It says, let me probably get to the point. Yeah, we just read the context. Let's read the context. So Matthew 14:22. Immediately, he made his disciples get into the boat and go before him to the other side while he dismissed the crowds. And after he had dismissed the crowds, he went up on a mountain by himself to pray. When evening came, he was there alone. But the boat by this time was a long way from the land, beaten by the waves, for the wind was against them. And in the fourth watch of the night, he came to them walking on the sea. But when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were terrified and said, "It is a ghost." And they cried out in fear. Immediately Yahushua spake to them, saying, "Take heart, it is I, do not be afraid." Gave them straight commandment. Don't be afraid. Don't waver. Don't doubt. This is me. Watch this. And Peter answered him, "Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water." He said, "Come." So Peter got out of the boat and walked on the water and came to Jesus, or Yahushua. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid and began to sink. He cried out, "Lord, save me." Yahushua immediately reached out his hand and took hold of him, saying to him, "You of little faith, why did you doubt?" And watch this. And when they got into the boat, the wind ceased, and those in the boat worshipped him, saying, "Truly you are the Son of God." So what do we get from this moment right here? Yahushua told them not to fear, not to doubt. This is me. Peter went out to go meet Christ, right? And as soon as he saw trouble, these winds that they were afraid of before the story even started, when he saw these winds that they were afraid of, he began to doubt. When you see trouble on the horizon, that's when it happens. You operate out of fear. You cannot operate out of fear. It shows a lack of faith, and it shows, a matter of fact, as soon as he started to fear, he started to sink. That's when you start your descent. When you've given into fear, when you've given into doubt, when you give it into trepidation, you begin to sink. And in the process of you sinking, you make bad decisions. And Yahushua allowed this moment right here to be an illustration of faith. Just like with Saul, just like with various other places in the Bible where our brethren and our sisters either stood on their faith or doubted in their faith. And through these examples, we learn. That's what this lesson's about. So let's get Sirach. Let's go back to Sirach 2. No, we're reading that. So Sirach chapter 2. You can start from the top again. Let's start from the top again. It says, "My son, if thou come to serve the Lord, prepare thy soul for temptation." Right? You know, the anxiety, the troubles, the actual trials of you sinning or not. We have to prepare ourselves for that. All right, set thy heart aright and constantly endure, and make not haste in a time of trouble. Don't be moving too fast. Be still and know Yahweh is your power. Cleave unto him and depart not away, that thou mayest be increased in thy last end. Right, at the end of what? Because the last end is not just at the end of your life, but at the end of whatever troubles you're going through. Because we already talked about in the beginning of this lesson, like in Second Chronicles, like the Lord is with you while you're with him. That's what it means to cleave unto him, not depart away. If you are with him, you haven't departed away from him. And when you cleave unto him, you will be increased at the end. You will have the better result. That's what we're striving for. That's what I'm striving for in my situations. Pray for me, Sidebar, pray for me. And in all situations, we want the better result. It says, whatsoever is brought upon thee, take thee cheerfully, and be patient when thou art changed to a lower state. So now we're going to divert in this lesson. Sometimes you take the L, right? Sometimes you have to be brought through. You have to be brought through things so that you learn. And not only that you learn, that you now have gained experience to where now you can minister unto people to where they don't have to go through what you went through. And we see things like that in Romans and other places actually, but Romans 5 and 3. Let me see. Yeah. It says, not only that, but we rejoice in our sufferings, knowing that suffering produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and character produces hope. And matter of fact, I want to read this. There's another one. I like the better translation to this. There's a better one. It might be the NLT. Might be the NLT. Let's see what the NLT says. Yeah, we'll go with this. So Romans 5 and 3, it says, we can rejoice too when we run into problems and trials, for we know that they help us develop endurance, and endurance develops strength of character, and character strengthens our confident hope of salvation, right? So hope is synonymous with another word called faith. That's what this lesson's about. They're synonymous. So when you go through problems and you go through getting sparked and you go through taking L's here and there, right? When the Lord brings you through them L's and at the end of it, you get something better than what you already had, it builds a strength of character. You've endured something. So when you go through chastening again later in your life, you're prepared for it. And not only are you prepared for it for yourself, you can prepare other people who are either going to go through it or prepare them so they don't have to go through it. That's what this is about. Sometimes you have to go through that. And I pray if I ever have to go through something like that, I'm ready to deal with that when I go through it. And that's the only thing we could ever really hope for. But that's just a realization we have to go through in life, because sometimes it doesn't go your way. Sometimes you have to just deal with the bad result, or what seems like a bad result in the time, and ultimately sets you up for a greater win somewhere else. That's what life is sometimes. So let me get another one. James 1 and 2. James 1 and 2. It says, dear brothers and sisters, I want to read this in NLT. I'm going to go back to the ESV. So James 1 and 2, it says, count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds. For you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness. Right? This is that endurance. This is that strength of character that it talked about, like in Romans chapter 5, that Paul was talking about. That's the things you go through prepare you for the next trial. This is why you can't be broken by those things. Sometimes you take the L, right? You learn from it, you get better, and you do better. Because we know in this world, we're not, like, as far as mainstream, the mainstream of the world terms perfect, we know that we're not going to make the correct decision every single time. We know we're not, and not even in not just being in, not just in big consequence decisions, but just in regular life. Sometimes you're going to have a misstep, right? And that can just tumble into various different things that'll lead you down a path of you have to deal with this, you have to deal with this, you create problems for yourself, right? We have to be ready for whatever that's going to entail, or whatever road the Lord is going to take us down. And the bumps on that road prepare you for the bigger bumps on that road. And that's another part of this that we have to deal with. So let me get another one. Yeah, I'm gonna read one more. It says, and let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking nothing. Right? And this perfection that it's talking about, it's going into the same word right here, completion, to be complete. Like biblical perfect means to be literally complete, like mature, full age, like it says in the book of Hebrews. I believe chapter 5, a full age, full spiritual maturity. That's what this is going into. So let me get. Matter of fact, we can go back to Sirach. We can go back to Sirach, chapter 2. I got a lot of precepts I wrote down, but there's a lot of things I had to tell myself when I was doing this. Right? So let's just finish this out. So Sirach 2 and 4, it says, whatsoever is brought upon thee, take cheerfully, and be patient when thou art changed to a low estate. For gold is tried in the fire, and acceptable men in the furnace of adversity. Right? Sometimes you got to go through it to be a better man. That's that experience that it was talking about, and that's that strength of character that Paul was talking about in Romans chapter 5. It says, ye that fear the Lord, wait for his mercy, and go not aside, lest ye fall. Ye that fear the Lord, believe him, and your reward shall not fail. Right? Because it said prior to this in verse 4, it says, be patient when you're changed into a low estate. So when you take that L wherever it is, and you might think it's a big L, you might think it's catastrophic, or you can't never recover from it. Sometimes it's the Lord preparing you for a greater win somewhere else, and that requires you to fear the Lord. And once you do that, your reward will not fail. Ye that fear the Lord, believe him, and your reward shall not fail. Ye that fear the Lord, hope for good and for everlasting joy and mercy. Look at the generations of old and see, did any ever trust in the Lord and was confounded? Or did any abide in his fear and was forsaken? Or whom did he ever despise that call upon him? Right? Because you see, like a perfect example, Job. At the end of his life, he had more than what he started with, even though he went through a lot of hell to get it. Because Job, people debate if Job was a real person or if it's just a story or just poetry. Let's say it is poetry. Job is supposed to be when you read the book of Job, it's a wisdom book. It's supposed to be an illustration of how we should be. In the beginning of it, he starts losing family members. He loses his appearance because he starts getting boils and various different infirmities, various different sicknesses, various different unfortunate events happen to him, and he never loses his integrity. And at the end of his life, he gains more than he could ever want. That's what it means by look to all those. That's what it means by verse. I'm going to read verse 10 again. Look at the generations of old and see, did ever any trust in the Lord and was confounded, or did any abide in his fear and was forsaken? He wasn't forsaken. Even though all these various things happened to him, at the end of his life, he gained so much more. And that's what I mean by sometimes you got to take an L to get a bigger W somewhere else. There's certain things within your control that the Lord allows you to either see if you're going to be patient and wait for, so where you can make the right decision to continue on the same path and continue winning, right? But there are certain situations where you have to take the L to learn from, to gain character. And being and showing yourself to be righteous throughout that path, and not forsaking the Lord, not forsaking your integrity because you took an L. You can be just like how Job was and get a greater W somewhere else. That's what's happening here. So when you go to verse 11, it says, for the Lord is full of compassion and mercy, long-suffering and very pitiful, and forgiveth sins, and saveth in the time of affliction. Woe to the fearful hearts and faint hands, and the sinner that goeth two ways. right? This is basically being wavering. Somebody who wavers. And you see, what is that? What is that verse? Let me see. Asking faith. Now, was it not wavering? There's a verse. Oh, didn't I read that? James 1:6. Yeah, James 1:6. It says, but let him ask in faith with none doubting, for the one who doubts is like a wave of the sea that is driven and tossed by the wind. For that person must not suppose that he will receive anything from the Lord. He is a double-minded man and unstable in all his ways. Right? When you lack faith, when you you believe in God here and then have trouble there, and you just tossed, like just like how a boat in the ocean is tossed by the waves and the wind. That's how you are when you don't move in faith. You're unstable. And that's problematic. It's crazy that people want to say the Apocrypha is contrary to the Bible. But this is saying the same thing James is saying. That was wild. That was wild. I hit back on the wrong screen. That was wild. Where is this? Share screen. That was wild. Yeah. Let's continue with this. Yeah. Verse 12. It says, woe be to fearful hearts and faint hands, and the sinner that goeth two ways. Woe unto him that is faint-hearted, for he believeth not, therefore he shall not be defended. Right? And matter of fact, there's a verse that I was thinking about in Revelation chapter 21, because it talks about the people who will not be defended, the people who lack faith. You see that type of ideology is perpetuated in Revelation 21, where it talks about the people who were without the kingdom, the people who aren't going to make it. So yeah, let's read this. Revelation 21:8. This is, but as for the cowardly and the faithless, the detestable, as for murderers, the sexually immoral, sorcerers, idolaters, and all liars, their portion will be in the lake that burns with fire and sulfur, which is the second death. So you're just to the Lord, when you don't have faith like that, you're going to have the same punishment as a murderer, as a sexual, somebody sexually immoral, like a homosexual, right? People do bestiality, an adulterer, a sorcerer, somebody who practices magic. You're going to have the same judgment when you don't have faith. This is what it means by it's impossible to please the Lord if you don't have faith. Because it's really just like it's really to him, according to what the scriptures say, to him, you share the same judgment. You looked at the same exact way. So let's go back into this. They really need to put the Apocrypha in the Apocrypha in the blue letter. Because I mean, if you're gonna quote, because just real quick, if you're gonna quote from the Apocrypha in the blue letter, like some words literally quote from Maccabees, and some of them from Sirach and certain places. If you're gonna quote from it, why not have it in there? Why have to use two different web pages? Like, y'all just like get it together, man. Verse 13. Let's read it again. It's woe unto them that is faint-hearted, for he believeth not, therefore shall he not be defended. Woe unto you that have lost patience, and what will ye do when the Lord shall visit you? They that fear the Lord will not disobey his word, and they that love him will keep his ways. They that fear the Lord will seek that which is well pleasing unto him, and they that love him shall be filled with the law. They that fear the Lord will prepare their hearts and humble their souls in his sight, saying, we will fall into the hands of the Lord and not into the hands of men, for as his majesty is, so is his mercy. So the people who have faith, that's how you have to be. I'm not worried about what you can do to me. I'm worried about what the Father can do to me. I want to fall into the hands of the Lord. I want my whatever my end is. I want whatever my lot is. I want it to be in the hands of the Lord, not in the hands of me. And me just operating out of fear, operating out of just anxiety and emotions, right? You're going to be in the hands of men, and it's really yourself. That's going to be your consolation. If that's the way, because the Lord's going to look at it, if that's the way you want to move, we're going to see how that works. Or you can serve me, right? Or you can do what I want you to do. You're going to acknowledge me, think about me, pray to me, and I'll give you the spirit to move the right way and be ordered correctly. Right? And doing that and operating that is showing you have full faith and full maturity of your faith in your full age. And that's what we all need to be. That's what we all need to be working and striving for. Because that's not something that's like, yeah, I've talked about this whole time, but that's something everybody struggles with, right? To some degree, like you're going to go through this, and that's something you have to really fight against. You have to fight against what the world. You have to fight against the world telling you you're this. You have to fight against your own mentality telling you you're nothing. You have to fight against the freaking temptations as far as like the troubles, like financial situations. You don't know how you're going to eat. You don't know how you're going to pay rent. You have to fight against all that telling you to give up. You literally have to fight against that every single day. And the way you win that fight is to do what the Israelites did when they got freed from Egypt. Let's read it one more time. Before we close out. Exodus 14. Exodus 14:14. The Lord will fight for you. You have only to be silent. That's how you win those fights. Don't be worried. Don't be anxious. Fall in the hands of the Lord and let him fight for you. You have only to be silent. But yeah, man, that's what I wanted to go into tonight. You know, I don't want to have a super long class. I already had a rough day today. I had a rough week. I had a rough 2 weeks. Rough 2.5-ish 2 weeks. It's stacked on top of each other. That's what I got to go through, right? You know, you level up. Here come the demons. Here come all that, right? Like I said in the beginning, don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to share the video, man. If you learn something, you know, super chat, super thanks. You know, if you're on your heart, Cash App, the Masada DTX. Oh, I forgot. This Saturday, we're going to be in San Antonio with the San Antonio Masada camp, building that up, doing various different things. We're going to be out there rebuking the Fiesta Fest. So if you're out there in San Antonio, come see us. It ain't gonna be hard to find us. So we're gonna be by the Riverwalk. So, you know, come say hi, do whatever, right? You know, if you want to smoke, you can come get it. It ain't gonna go well for you. But yeah, man, with that, I'm gonna say call Allah Yahweh by Shema Mashiach Yahushai. Shalom.